Good morning, Bridget. Can you check your audio and video, please?
Hi, yes, my audio is working. I'm on a computer that doesn't have a webcam, but
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You say your audio's working, and what was the rest?
my camera isn't working at the moment. But the audio is working. I was just muting myself because there's loud construction. Hopefully it's working.
Good morning, Lisa. Can you check your audio, please?
Check 1, 2.
Sounds great, thank you. Good morning, Paul. Can you check your audio and video, please? Good morning, Sarah. Can you check your audio, please?
Good morning.
Sounds great, thank you. Good morning, Tanisha. Can you check your audio and video, please?
Good morning.
Sounds great, thank you very much. What the hell happened? What was this? Assign privilege change role. Center. Okay. Can all the board members please turn on your camera so we can start counting for quorum? All the ones that are virtual, all board members who are virtual, please turn on your camera. We'd like to count for quorum. Good morning, Charlotte. Can you check your audio and video, please? And could all board members please turn on your camera so we can check for quorum? Leave your cameras on from now, please. Bridget and Paul, can you please turn on your cameras?
Okay, Sean, confirming, this is the clerk here, confirming you have quorum so we can start the meeting whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Baring. I'm the Vice Chair of the Toronto Music Advisory Committee. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I will call the meeting of the Toronto Music Advisory Committee to order. Welcome to our sixth meeting of this term. The meeting will be held in person using City's WebEx technology with members and staff connecting by video conference or calling in. Members of the public are welcome to attend this meeting in person or remotely. Because we're meeting in person and remotely, we'll ask for your patience with delays and technical issues. I'd like to remind staff to keep their mics muted with their videos turned off unless they need to answer questions or speak to committee. If members wish to ask questions of staff or to speak, please make sure your video is on, raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I will create a speakers list. If members wish to place motions on any of the agenda items, please email the text of your motion in advance to the clerk at tmac@toronto.ca. When voting on an item or a motion, I would ask members to turn on your video, raise your hand to indicate your vote. If there is a recorded vote, I will ask you to state if you are in favor or opposed. Got a land acknowledgement. Although we are in different locations, the Toronto Music Advisory Committee acknowledges the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Ashumbek, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by the Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Confirmation of minutes. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes of the meeting on November 21st, 2024? I have Lisa. Any opposed? All in favor? Sorry. I need to see your hands. There we go. Any opposed? Okay, carried. We have some new business. Introduction to new business item from Councillor Fletcher. Welcome, Councillor Fletcher. Affordable housing for workers in film, arts, television, and culture sector. All in favor of adding this item to today's agenda, please show hands. Okay, any opposed? It's good. Okay, let's proceed with the agenda. First item is Toronto Music Advisory Task Team updates. Toronto Music Advisory Committee Task Team spokespeople and city staff will update members on ongoing work related to team's goals. Please go ahead.
Sean, I think we've got a list here of the task teams who are planning to update members today, and the spokespeople that are going to do it. I've just texted it to you, but you may have just received that. I can get things going maybe with the first one, and I have the New Space task team and Jonathan Bunce as spokesperson there first.
Great.
Thanks, Mike. Can everyone hear me? Check 1, 1, 2. Thanks, everyone. The New Space Task Team held a meeting at Wavelength HQ last week to follow up on our brainstorming session from the fall. And after a great discussion, we decided we need to engage more with city staff to determine which of our many space-related ideas and objectives the city might have the ability to deliver before we make any motions here at committee level. So through our good friend Mike Tanner, we've checked in with Ben McIntosh at Economic and Culture Division about adding rehearsal spaces and recording studios to the live music venues property tax subclass, which is something we could work towards for next year's budget process, though we will require more data on active recording studios, and that's something we'll be working with the music office to achieve. Mike will also be initiating conversation with Revenue Services to assess the appetite for potential increased reductions on the arts and cultural properties tax subclass. We're also planning to connect with the sound check team at the city for a meeting to discuss shared goals with our task team, as well as the status of the cultural heritage district designations, which we discussed in our meeting, and how that might benefit the music sector. And we're also looking into the possibility of a meeting with our task team and Create TO to learn more about its process of identifying space needs in the communities with city properties being developed in the future. And on the topic of streamlining the events permit process for music events and festivals in city parks, that's also of interest to our group, and Mike will be connecting us with the appropriate parks, forestry, recreation contacts so we can open a dialogue with them. And lastly, following the adoption of the Action Plan for Culture at the end of last year, we're thrilled to see the city committing to support the development of 1 million square feet of new cultural space over the next 10 years. We've discussed the importance of that number, and that it may include space for the music sector. To that end, we'd like to follow up with a meeting between TMAC and the staff of the Office of Creative Space to help meet this ambitious but much needed goal. And that's our update. Any questions from the committee?
Thanks, Jonathan. Members, any questions on this item or anything?
Yes,
Jonathan?
Councillor Fletcher, I have a couple of questions. Thank you. It's great to be here with all of you. I'm
You too.
really happy to be on this committee. You might not know this, but Marguerite might know, but Cherry Beach Sound is sitting right in the middle of Villiers, the new Oquemin Island. And I don't know what the plans are for that. Maybe somebody knows, or I'm sure it's pretty big rehearsal space. So do we have any idea, or is that something that we need to get more information on?
Councillor, first of all, welcome to TMAC.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I know that you will be as effective for the music industry as you are for film, which is formidable. So look out, everybody. Helmets on. I really welcome your participation here. So thank you. Your first question is one to which I do not have an answer. So okay. I don't know, Mike, if you do, but we can look into it further.
Thanks. Yeah. My understanding is currently Cherry Beach Sound has pivoted and is less of a commercial music rehearsal facility and more of a recording facility than it used to be. But that is a third-hand understanding. I haven't actually directly been in touch with the operators. Back in the day, I actually rehearsed there myself and was pretty familiar with the facility. And being as the current zoning for that area is perfect for music rehearsl, and as you're aware, Councillor, the immediate geography is good for it as well. It would be nice to see that location is suitably used. I know there is one small sort of sublet music rehearsal facility within the larger building, but it's run by a separate company. But I don't know what the plans are for the space in its entirety.
Okay, so just because that's my area, it's the new island, it's everything going on down there, coming up fast actually, 2031, that's when all the housing's supposed to be built. So I just think it would be helpful through the Waterfront Secretariat to start looking at what the plans are for that site, how long that's going to be there, what some of the options are, because when we had the jumbo stage there, we had to get Waterfront Toronto to help us move that capacity for film to a different location. So I'd just like to make that ask here, if I can, to start looking at that. I think it's a fairly significant space and always has been. Carmen was very upset years ago when it was going to be a field of, going to be a soccer field, but now it's going to be housing. So that's a pretty big space. So can we do that? That's my first one. The second, and that's also interesting to do with Create TO. You have a task force. I'm the mayor's designate on Create TO, so I'm happy to be at any meetings with Create TO. That might be helpful for everybody. And lastly, on the parks, my suggestion is if you can create a list of the most desirable parks for music, then some of the infrastructure that would be required to make that easy, the plugins and all of that Marguerite knows all about, because we do that for film all the time, would be helpful to build that into a parks plan. So that would be my request here, come up with 10 or so that would be looked at for best parks for music, and we go back in and we say where and how to make sure that it's a very simple thing to do that. So those three things I have to offer today.
Those are great ideas. Thanks. Can I make a quick comment there?
Please.
When the music element of the Arts in the Park program was introduced back in, I want to say 2017, 2018, there were 20 parks that were pre-designated around the city as being appropriate for music, and they would get any stakeholders, any event organizers wanting to organize a music event in any one of those parks would get a streamlined process from Parks and Rec. So that might be a good place to start. With respect to the infrastructure, I think that's a great point, and I'm going to throw it that I think power and water are very important when it comes to that, as opposed to gazebos and elaborate staging, but just the things that minimize the amount of cable mat and extension cords and generators that people have to bring in.
And to be able to drive in and get everything, all the equipment in, that's the other thing, without driving over the grass.
Yeah.
That I think
conflict with other user groups is another thing that often requires some smoothing over. But yeah, we're working on a list of the biggest challenges that music organizers face in parks, and that'll be part of the discussion that we're going to open up with PFR.
That's great. Just for those 20 parks, do you have the list of the original Arts in the Park parks, Jonathan?
I don't have it handy, but Mike?
I can get it from Parks and Rec staff.
Okay, thank you.
We had to do this with markets, farmers markets, where, anyway, now that's all smoothed out, so that's good.
Lisa had a question, I believe.
Question so much is, Mike, we should connect, because in our exhaustive search for venue replacement for Phoenix, I found an awful lot of spots that weren't appropriate for a 1,300 capacity venue, but definitely could work for rehearsal space. So I could put a list together and just kind of go through some of the things that at least are available on the short term. Most are locations that are deemed for development, but with development slowing down so significantly, 2, 3, 4-year leases are possible. Anything longer than that, probably not. But for a rehearsal space, like with Cherry Beach, as you know, there's less need for a full build out, let's say, to make it usable for rehearsal space than for a space visited by the public. So I could go through my searches and come up with possibilities because there's a lot out there.
Great. Would love to get that list from you, Lisa. Thank you.
Kristen, you have a question?
Hi. Thanks, Councillor Fletcher. You mentioned a parks plan, and I wondered if that's something that's already has a timeline on it, just so that we can be aware, or if it's just like a general next upcoming parks plan that you're mentioning.
If I can answer that, Mr. Chair, the original Arts in the Park, which it had a plan, that is the plan, to put as much arts in parks as possible, but now Jonathan's raising the fact sometimes there's this conflict with other users, so it's all permitted. I think that I'm just interested in where those 20 parks are and then what other ones would be added on. I know for Parks Department, it's easier for them to look at specific locations than just in general and then work from there. And I don't know how many permits there have been requested that have been denied or looking at places that weren't suitable. That would be helpful for them. I know that.
The program initially was kind of underutilized. I think each year the music office would email all the event organizers that we know and say, hey, did you know that this music in the parks mechanism exists and you can get a permit to do a show in a park, providing it's not gated, it's not too large, and it meets a number of criteria. And I think pre-pandemic there were maybe about 30 permits issued each year, May to October, for this type of activity. Of course, originally a lot of music event organizers all wanted to be at Trinity Bellwoods Park. So part of that was getting people to not be at Trinity Bellwoods Park only. And there was some success. There was some in Ward 14, for example, that would be used, and some in other parts of the city. But it would be good in conjunction with what you're talking about to recalibrate that, see where it's at, and see where the locations would be best for the music community and that are already kind of pre-sanctioned by Parks and Rec.
Councillor Fletcher, the piece about conflict is just one small piece of the puzzle. I think for many event organizers, the economic challenges of doing events in parks is the largest one, because there are a lot of restrictions on usage, restrictions on sponsorship signage, restrictions on charging admission, restrictions on gating, and I think those, when we talk to event organizers, those are often the topics that come up as being that, combined with the difficulty of finding the available dates in the desirable parks.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors, aren't there?
There are.
Yeah. But it would be great to get that list of 20 parks and then where the permits were, and then hear from parks where they think the parks are large enough for a large event. Like Earl Bales might be one, Downsview, I don't know them all, but there's probably Centennial, where they could be more curated or set up that would be possible. That would make sense to me. And I'm sure you have some of that historically, because the pandemic wiped out a lot.
You did. Jacqueline, bless her heart, has just dug up the list and emailed it to me. Would you like to see it?
I think you should just post it. Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Put it up, but I think just putting it into the minutes would be helpful.
Sure, we can do that.
And then the list of permits, I always get that from parks. What's been permitted for music, so we understand the kind of baseline.
Okay. We'll put it in the minutes.
We get that list emailed out to all the TMAC members too. That would.
Oh, Jason from Parks and Rec has sent it as well. Thank you.
And the
Wonderful.
permit info, but you don't have that right away. You'd have to ask parks for all.
Indeed, I would.
Yeah.
open. Get your attention for a minute here. Ron?
Sorry, Lisa?
I think Paul Benoit's been trying to get your attention.
Oh.
I keep seeing his hand go up. I'm just speaking on his behalf.
Paul, fire away. I'm on a small screen here, so.
Just waiting for my moment. Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry, just quickly answer the question way back at the beginning, which is about the rehearsal spaces at Cherry Beach. My band still practices there. There is still, I think, about 10 rehearsal spaces. I think the change that's happened, so they have the studio side and the rehearsal side. I think the change that's happened is that they don't do hourly spaces anymore. It's like monthly rentals now. With all the construction that's going on around the space, obviously everyone in there is wondering how much longer that's going to exist. But also, things like parking have become a real problem. So, to the extent that the city's actually going to look and make sure that that remains a viable place to practice, I think that's amazing. I also think it kind of highlights, the unavailability of places to practice rehearse music in the downtown core, but also the distinction between hourly spaces and monthly rental spaces. I think for a lot of emerging artists, a monthly rental is not very viable. So, having access to hourly space is just as important as well. So, two things.
Thanks, Paul. That's
Thank
valuable.
you, Paul. Anyone else on what Jonathan brought up? Any other questions? Mike or clerk, do we need to receive any motions here, or?
No
sure
motions there, Sean.
Okay, great. I guess next task member. Who do we have on the? I can't see the list, Mike.
Yeah,
so
we have next
to
is the career development task team, and that would be Kim Temple giving the update. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mr. Chair, councillors, esteemed members of TMAC. I'm going to give you an update on one of our goals, which was to develop and consolidate a comprehensive list of organizations that are offering professional development supports and resources for the creative industries, modeled after the existing list of funders currently on our website. We're nearly done editing, thanks to Jacqueline and our amazing task force. We're compiling. It will be added to the Music Office webpage in the next month or so. This list will include things like mentorship programs, business development programs, skills accelerators, artist development, industry webinars, master classes, and more. So the idea was to have everything consolidated in one place, and we are 1 month away-ish. So that's an excellent update. We're very proud of that one on our task force. Next, we wanted to give an update on our next networking event, which will be in April, and it will be focused on grassroots DIY event producers and alternative spaces. So the goal here is to highlight non-traditional spaces and build relationships between them and grassroots promoters, as access to space is a key issue for the community. So we'll be reaching out to other TMAC members for suggestions of spaces and promoters so we can have a robust list of attendees. If you have any ideas of where we could host this, please forward your suggestions to Jacqueline. And I think we're going to have an update later in this meeting on how the mentorship or the internship cafe went from Amy and Tanisha.
Excellent, thank you. Members, any questions on these items? Lisa, go ahead.
How big a space are you looking for your event in April, Kim?
Probably 150 people.
Okay, I might pass on some ideas.
Great.
As the resident state agent.
Space wrangler. Thank you. That would be much appreciated.
Also would be happy to host at the Garrison or the Baby G. We can fit those numbers, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions on these items? I'm scrolling through. I'm not seeing anybody. Speak now if I'm not seeing them.
Melissa's got her hand up, Sean.
Hi.
Right.
Yeah.
Go for it. Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that I think this is a really amazing initiative, and I'm curious how we might want to pose outreach to groups that work kind of adjacent or alongside music communities, but might not be necessarily operating predominantly on music programming, and if that feels like that's within the scope of this event. And yeah, I think how we can really foster some really important, potentially solidarity building efforts.
Yeah, I'd love to hear any suggestions you have of adjacent groups that we should be doing outreach to. I think that's pretty much the whole point of this general health of the music industry task force, to make sure we're being inclusive and finding people who might be looking for more information but don't know where to go. So yeah, if you have suggestions, please send them to us.
If I could jump in really quickly on that as well. Thank you, Melissa. That's a great idea. This is where our, we're a unit, right? No, we're a section. We're a section. Film and entertainment industries, the section of economic development and culture actually can help out, because Marguerite here is the director of a section that includes music, film, our in-house visitor economy office, and perhaps most appropriately here, creative technology, interactive digital media, which is, as some of you know, my colleague Anthea Foyer, who has a lot of touch points in that community. And Melissa, Vincent, when you bring up something like that, I'm thinking, well, there are probably some, not probably, definitely some organizations at the grassroots level that are working in digital tech that have adjacencies already with music. I think you're probably thinking of the same kinds of organizations. We're already putting something together with Music Publishers Canada, Margaret McGuffin here, and Kim Temple, bringing together those groups for professional and career development. So it's a natural fit. And as we're building out the list for this music office, working with this task team, we'll bring in Anthea as well for some recommendations of appropriate organizations to bring in.
Yeah, Kim and Melissa, that's a great suggestion. I think also, Melissa, maybe if I'm picking up what you're putting down, there's other cultural, subcultural elements connected to DIY music that are more analog, like zine making, visual arts, video art, things that are, obviously sort of within the realm of media arts, but not necessarily, might not be represented by the all-encompassing term of digital art, and connections with the activist world as well. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, that'd be good if you could maybe feed some ideas in there for that, right? I didn't actually think about zine making and those sorts of things.
The crafts community as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for comments. Any other questions or comments from the members? True. If I'm not seeing you, got your hand up, go ahead. I don't see anyone. Okay. I guess we will move to the next task force, please. Mike, who do we have on the list?
That's the venues task team, Sean. That's you and Tracy and Lisa. So I'm not sure which of you was maybe going to give an update there.
Tracy, Lisa? I think a lot of what we have been working on, the new licensing and zoning, is being covered by the music office in this meeting. But if Tracy or Lisa had anything more to add to it, there's been a lot of extensive background work on that. But yeah, the update is coming in this meeting. So
Lisa is going to go through sort of the work done so far, and a lot of it hard work done by Jacqueline. We got to a place with the licensing where there was a fair amount of confusion, particularly with venues that may not have previously operated as a music space, or venues that were uncertain as to what this meant relative to extending the use of their space for live music. And so where we got to is an attempt at sort of creating a flow chart on whether or not you pass go at this point, because there's still, while this is a great potential opportunity, there are roadblocks along the way that include potential zoning issues. There is the need to communicate to various incentive groups within the city, and including the AGCO. So I think Jacqueline is going to take everyone through this, so I don't want to take up too much time other than to suggest that while this was a January announce, and Mike, I don't know if you have any information on how many people have come forward about applying at this point, but it's a bit of a labyrinth that requires a fair amount of communication that we've discussed how to best streamline and to make sure that the music office was used as a resource as questions did arise. Mike, do you have any information on venues that have come forward, or even those that have come forward asking the question?
I have some talking points from municipal licensing and standards, an update on the rollout. I can do that now because it's a little bit more germane, I think, and related to the point that's under discussion here. Later on, Jacqueline is going to give an update that's a little bit more focused on what we're calling for now the step-by-step guide, which is what you're alluding to there, Lisa, a kind of a flow chart through the labyrinth, as it were, on how to decide which license category is right for you, and how to work with capacity limits and all of that. So this is information provided by Mitch Tebow, our colleague, our city staff colleague in municipal licensing and standards, having to do with the rollout of information and communications around the new zoning and licensing bylaws that affect bars, restaurants, and entertainment venues. So I'm not going to read every word of this. There's quite a bit here, but the most important points are, as many of you remember, in December 2023, City Council adopted two related items: modernizing licensing and zoning regulations for bars, restaurants, and entertainment venues. The updated approach reclassified venues should foster new business opportunities and stimulate Toronto's economy outside the downtown core. These amendments went into effect on January 1st of this year, so not quite 2 months ago. Key changes include food and entertainment businesses may need a new or updated licensing type. They may also need to meet different requirements depending on food or entertainment services. Maximum area that bars and restaurants can use for entertainment is more flexible now, can be increased. Businesses may have to apply for additional licenses or license permissions depending on what food or entertainment services they are providing. And entertainment establishments, nightclubs, will be permitted citywide subject to conditions set out in zoning bylaws. The businesses that are currently licensed with the city need to follow these new licensing regulations when their annual business license is up for renewal in 2025. That's an important point. It doesn't happen for everybody on January 1st. It happens as the venue's license is up for renewal. So as of January 1st, municipal licensing and standards staff are working with currently licensed and new food and entertainment business to transition to the new licensing framework. Staff have updated all communications questionnaires and have conducted staff training on the new framework. Staff are working closely with establishments to help them obtain the proper license and meet any new or updated requirements depending on the activities of the business. The city has developed a license finder tool, and that is a live link off MLS's website to help businesses understand which license or licenses are suited to their operations. Staff are available to support business owners at any stage of the business licensing process if they have questions. And the city is hosting virtual information sessions on the updated regulations and processes for business operators at 2 dates that are specified right now. One is Wednesday, February 19th, so coming right up this week, 2025, and Monday, April 25th. Dates and registration links can be found at toronto.ca/food and entertainment. Again, I'm going to repeat that URL, toronto.ca/food and entertainment. If anybody's listening and they get lost, you can email the music office, Jacqueline, or me. Jacqueline has already sent out communications about this information session coming up this Wednesday to our music office database of live music venues, so people shouldn't be shocked and surprised about this, but there are a lot of emails going out. So again, this Wednesday. Jacqueline, what time is that? Do you know offhand? 7 o'clock in the evening, virtual session? Okay. And if you want any additional information on these bylaw changes, you visit toronto.ca/food and entertainment or contact MLS Business License at toronto.ca.
Do we know on the information sessions if it's a general outcall or if there's specific, nightclub, restaurant, venue, etc.?
Sorry, this is Jacqueline. From what I can tell, it looks like a public information session for food and entertainment businesses. So it would be all-encompassing, not specific to venues or nightclubs, but they will definitely be mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just so people know going in.
But yeah, food and entertainment business is not like dog grooming parlors, so it's focused on the changes that are alluded to in these bylaws.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions related there?
Which is great. Is there, how else is it getting pushed out though, Mike? You mentioned like businesses, but is it something that's going out by a press release? How is it getting communicated to the other?
Sorry, Lisa, you're asking how is municipal licensing and standards communicating the need for this new licensing definition to all license holders?
Just how the information session is getting communicated, because I received something from CLMA, but I'm just wondering how, what the push out is to
the restaurant industry
potential restaurants, industries. Is there a database that, I guess what I'm getting to is, people that have approached me with some interest, should I be sending them to the food and entertainment portal? What or how's that working?
So I can answer for the music office, Lisa. We sent this out two weeks ago. From the music office to our database, which includes entertainment venues, aka nightclubs, all live music venues, anything that might potentially be affected by these new categories. And we don't have staff from MLS here in the room, but I'm assuming that they have also been emailing all the appropriate business license holders in those categories from probably MLS feedback at toronto.ca. I imagine there's, always things that fall through the cracks, which is why we followed up ourselves by trying to make sure all of the stakeholders we know of are getting that information.
I have seen some postings.
We're
on
aware of it,
social.
so I just want to, obviously I can forward the information to them, but I'm not sure how extensive the outreach was, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think being kind of ready for January 1st was slightly behind, but I'm hoping that people are getting it. I noticed the second info meeting is in April, so that'll have people that are their license are renewing after that. Will get covered, and hopefully we can all do a bit more reach out to colleagues in our side industries.
Yeah, I think if you have colleagues, other business owners that you know of that you where didn't get this from anybody, please do pass that on. We will send out another reminder this week, and we will contact MLS to ensure that they do as much as they can to ensure that people aren't missed as well, because these are really important questions, obviously very important information sessions, and nobody wants business holders being left out.
Yeah, because there was a little bit of a glitch. I had forwarded to the Garrison license, which it pointed me to a nightclub license, not the new a place of assembly. So if people keep there's still a bit of growing room there to reach people and reach them correctly with the right information. Just a note.
Yes, that's a good point. MLS, in receiving your note, Sean, said that they would add some language to the type of communication that the Garrison received to ensure that entertainment place of assembly is also listed as an option that would be a potential license category for a venue, a live music venue like the Garrison. Currently it's not mentioned, and it will be.
Great. Excellent.
Sean, I have a question.
So there's improvements going as we move along. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
When is this? Is it in effect or it's coming into effect?
It's
January 1st.
In effect as of January 1st.
Okay. So just, it becomes very confusing doing Cafe TO with restaurants and then MLS. It was a bit of a mess, so I don't know how ACDEV is overseeing that part of MLS, or how you would be overseeing that, Marguerite, to make sure that that's not their core business, but it is your core business in ACDEV. So what does that look like, or how could that be streamlined a little bit? So some of these questions, and folks particularly in the entertainment music industry, aren't wading through all of the food, all of the, all the license information that MLS has, that more of a concierge model at this point.
So thank you for the question. What we can do is work closely with Business Growth Services that handles how did I just forget, Cafe TO, to ensure alignment with everything related to MLS and the changes at MLS. But what we can also do, if this hasn't already happened, Mike, is talk with MLS about including Cafe TO in some of the info sessions or other approaches to making sure that those who are eligible for Cafe TO, because that's a limited group, are getting the information about how to sort between those two things.
I didn't so much mean Cafe TO. I meant my experience with it was very difficult in the interface between MLS, their main business is enforcement and licensing, and the business side, the food industry, the restaurant side, that just needed something that was very clear and streamlined, and that was very difficult to get to the sweet spot. So I'm not sure, I'm just looking to make sure that as we get this rolls out, that people aren't left stranded and trying to get a lot of information from MLS, which is actually, as we all know, very hard.
Yes, we've been aware of the same concerns from live music venue operators particularly. What we've done is work closely with MLS for months now, honestly, leading up to January 1st, and still continuing since then, collaboratively with MLS policy on language, on clarity, on helping people understand, busy business owners, what they have to do, how this impacts them, what is the right choice for me, what are the license categories, what does it all mean. Jacqueline particularly has been deep in the weeds with MLS on trying to scope that communication. And as you'll hear later, Jacqueline has also taken it on herself to put together a plain language guide for business owners potentially impacted by these changes. We focus mainly on live music venues, on people who present live music, whether they're restaurants or bars or whatever, so that it's all in one place and it's plain language and it's clear and it's easy to understand, as much as you can make this easy to understand. So we have taken a lead role, we being the music office, EDC, in trying to translate and make sure that there's as little miscommunication and confusion as possible, and we will continue to do that.
That's great.
I think taking note of the rollout so far, I would suggest that maybe we could set up an info session for music venues specifically, because it'll be such a small number compared to the other nightclub, et cetera, rollout, that we could hone in and really have a focus session in a month or two, maybe before the April session, that just are, focus on live music spaces. I think that'll help a lot because there is a lot of information in all those other categories that we've seen in the meetings over the last year and a half, 2 years. So just a suggestion there that maybe we can move that forward as a TMAC music office initiative.
Yes, that's a great idea. We'll take that. I've made a note of that, Sean. Thank you. We'll set that up with MLS.
Thank you. Any other questions related to that? Sorry, I'm going back to the script here.
The original question, though, Mike, do you know how many venues or spaces have come forward interested in the license? Are we getting many, a few, just calls of confusion? There
is no other kind. I don't know,
well, I'm
Lisa.
thinking about somebody like the Blood Brothers and their new Sound Garage space. I sort of suggested to them off the top that maybe they want to be a bit of a case study here. Have they continued to engage? Are there others like them that, or is it really just a big question mark right now?
So those are good questions, and they're kind of two separate questions. I think MLS's rollout with what we're describing right now, these new zoning and licensing categories, license categories and zoning bylaw changes, is referring and targeting the existing bricks and mortar venues that are typically up and down main streets and have an existing business license, and they're changing to potentially a new type of license depending on the services they're providing. There, as I mentioned in the updates from MLS, they would very likely not be proactively reaching out with questions. It's when their business license comes due for renewal that they would sort of launch into this dialogue with MLS about what is the right kind. Given that we're only 2 months into the year, MLS is saying there hasn't been a lot of uptake yet, because only, I guess, 1/6 of the licenses could possibly have come up. I don't have numbers from them on what percentage have been, calls of confusion and dismay versus smooth sailing. With outliers like the ones you're referring to, They're, to my knowledge, just dealing separately outside of this process with community planning, with zoning, with Toronto Buildings on obtaining the right permissions for what they're trying to do. And Music Office is always involved in making those connections, and we will certainly continue to be, because, again, we want to make sure that people have the right license and permissions and permitted uses for what they are doing or what they're purporting to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Maybe we could suggest to MLS some data gathering for our next meeting. That way we could present some of the answers to Lisa's questions there.
I'll make a note of that too as well, Sean. Thanks.
Thank you.
You can also ask, Mike, MLS can also come to this meeting. City staff are able to come at any time to any of these events.
We have had them. We have had MLS present several times. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This has been this is probably a 5-year process in my mind. Yeah. So,
sorry, late to the party. But
yeah, no, all good. No, it really picked up steam in the last year and a half. But the initial information sessions and meetings, et cetera, with MLS started about 5 years ago, pre-pandemic. Obviously got off course a little bit there, but so it's a brand new one, but it's some growing pains, but it seems to be at least moving forward. Yes, and just having that information for our next meeting would be fantastic, so we can see the success or if there's any other issues.
We just got a note from Mitch Tebow in MLS Policy in response to Marguerite's quick question about communications, and he says MLS has relied on public communications, on MLS public communications to publicize the sessions to date, Sean, including promotion on business TO, culture TO newsletters, and information sent to councillors' offices and provided on city web pages. After the first session tomorrow, Wednesday, they'll send a note to licensees with information, further information about the April session.
Awesome. Okay, any other questions there, or are we to move on to our next speaker? Which Mike would be?
Next speaker would be Affordable Housing Task Team, and that would be Gila.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mr. Chair, councillors, fellow TMAC members. I'm happy to provide the update on behalf of the Affordable Housing Task Team, which includes Charlotte Cornfield, Jonathan Bunce, and myself. We previously mentioned our Listen and Learn tours for the benefit of Councillor Fletcher. Those included groups like the Performing Arts Lodge, Lakeview Village Artists Co-op, Creative Collisions, Community Cultural Spaces Trust, MPD Consultants, Unison Benevolent Fund, and the Housing Secretariat of Toronto. And we have a few more meetings to do in terms of our Listen and Learn tour. However, there were a couple conversations that came from those with some potential affordable housing connections or opportunities that we are following up on and staying close to, that we hope to provide an update on at a future meeting. Based on the feedback we're receiving on these Listen and Learn tools, we will consolidate these into a brief, more informal report to share with this committee and with the music office as well. In that informal report, we'll also put together a list of tools that we believe will be helpful in the creation of more artist affordable housing, because there are things coming up in our conversations around, development charge credits and waivers and property tax and things like that. That will likely need a meeting with the Housing Secretariat, which we'll follow up on. And some of those may come in the form of a motion for city staff to look into. Other than that, really looking forward to hearing from Councillor Fletcher related to the Film, Arts and Cultural Industries Affordable Housing Initiative. Thank you. I'll pause there for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from members?
This might be a good time to just talk about the letter, because even though it got put on as a separate item, it actually
connected.
fits right to what you're doing. And I didn't honestly know you had an affordable housing task force, so that's fantastic. And I look forward to working with the three of you on this.
Likewise.
But and there's many models, but one of them is to set aside, when there's designated affordable, to set a certain number of those aside for the cultural sector. So as I said in the letter, I've managed to do that a couple of times, but there's no, it would be great to have something come from this body, as we have had from the film board, to say at McCleary, we want to make sure that all the affordable housing is that some of it's set aside for folks that are in the industry, because it's right across from Pinewood, so that makes sense. And there are perhaps, unless it's in the zoning bylaw, it doesn't really matter. So once it's in the bylaw or in the secondary plan, now that's something the city has to do. And this motion that was done at the last council meeting, you probably all know about affordable housing, but it's different than rent geared to income housing, which comes off of a main list, which has about 70,000 people on it. Affordable housing is related to the CMHC, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, rents. So 80% of that rent is considered affordable. The city under Mayor Chow is trying to make it 60, 40, all the way down to have a different blend, not just the 80%. But that's a different list. It's not the same big list that we have for rent geared to income. And that list is going to be developed by, an RFP is going to go out, and somebody's going to do all the digital and electronic work to create a list. And my motion says, once you do that, you have to build in a potential to have people apply for artist housing on there. Because what happens, and happened in the co-op, sorry, just cut me off if I'm going too long, Sean, but is that there was 26 units and 5 were set aside. So when the co-op did that, there was a call out for people to take the units, but they had a special call out for artists. It was the same down at Daniels. It's the same, going to be the same at Don Somerville. It's a very particular process that's important to know about, so that because nobody really wants to do it because it's hard to do. But I think we need to do it because these industries, these are artist jobs, and we know that people need support in their housing. We want to keep people in the city. So I'm happy to continue on that, including with our film board people. Marguerite will tell you that we're very clear about that kind of sector housing. Where else could it be? Are there any zoning coming up with affordable where that can get added in different parts of the city? So that's to support that. I think we have to watch it carefully because it's tricky, but it's important to do.
Agreed.
Fantastic. It sounds like there's some mechanisms there that will help with our work here too.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Sean. Absolutely. And we're keen to take you up on that offer to sort of learn more. We're thinking of certain pathways, but there may be others to broaden this. And certainly having that sort of experience of how it's done before and how we can replicate it helps tremendously. Thank you.
Yeah, I did get a lot of nice letters from the Performing Arts Lodge because they're always looking for a location. Generally thinking about a location specific, just one place only for artists, compared to adding affordable units for artists where they're already being built. I think number 2 is a lot easier, and that means the whole planning process has to add them in. But we're happy to do that. But it's not very popular staff-wise, sorry, not with you, but it's just tricky to do. So it's anyway, but we're going to do it, okay?
That's fantastic information. Thank you. Any other questions there related to the housing? Fire away if you're
Great to get a motion that just said to support this initiative of the adding on the, there's a recommendation here, so whether, Mr. Chair, you want to do that here, you want to do that separately, that would be, I'd request that. So it goes through City Council. This would go up to City Council and then support that motion.
Clerk, can we do that at this point, or was it on the agenda somewhere else?
That's the last item on the agenda, so we can
we'll wait till then.
Move the recommendation
So
at that point.
We'll vote on it then. Okay, excellent.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. Any other questions there? It's a big one, but I was excited about all that information. Do we have one more task team or two more task teams?
I think, Sean, that may be all the updates from the task teams that we've got scheduled. Although, if I'm missing something, please, for many of the task team folks, speak up if you have something you're busting at the seams to update us on.
Speak now.
I'm seeing a lot of impassive faces.
Okay. So are we going to move to our presentation now?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so we have Margaret McGuffin, music publisher of
Sorry, Sean,
Canada.
one interjection. We need a motion to receive MA 6.1.
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve MA 6.1, please?
That's Gila got her hand in the air there, Sean.
Excellent. Thank you, Gila. Motion approve. Motion. Anyone? All hands up to approve. Sorry. Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The next item is MA 6.2 Level Up Program Presentation. We've got Margaret McGuffin, Music Publisher of Canada, is here to give a presentation on Level Up, a program which supports artists and creative industry workers with caring for family members, retirement planning, and other issues. Welcome, Margaret.
Hello, everybody. I'm Margaret McGuffin. I'm CEO of Music Publishers Canada. Thank you, Mr. Chair and TMAC members for asking me to join. And Councillor Fletcher, I live in your riding. Go forward, Jacqueline. I will leave this presentation with you, and if you'd like to contact me after, do feel free. And you can go forward. In terms of just a brief overview of Music Publishers Canada, I will be up front right now. I work with Kim Temple. Kim works half of her time at Music Publishers Canada, so if you have any questions about what we do, feel free to follow up with Kim. And our members are sort of the best kept secret in the music industry, and nobody always knows about music publishing. And our music publishers are quite active in the city of Toronto. We represent both multinationals and independents who have offices in Canada, and our members represent over 90% of the songs you hear around the world. Our members work with songwriters and with composers, and they work with old songs, film scores, and discover and invest in new songwriters and composers. So we are involved in finding homes for songs and promoting songs so that they're being heard in video games, in film and television productions, and in every form that you can hear a sound recording. Just a list of some of our members, and many of those have offices in Canada. Anthem at the bottom there has over 50 employees down on Brumner, one of the largest Toronto employers. But I'm not here to talk about Music Publishers Canada. I'm here to talk about Level Up, and I'm here for Women in Music Canada. We got involved with Women in Music Canada with Balancing Act and Level Up just about 6 months ago. And just some history on Balancing Act. It was formed around 4 years ago by Theatre Direct. And they were very successful in setting up a new not-for-profit that's looking at how they can aid caregivers. I won't go through all the detailed information here, but I provided some of the history on Balancing Act and their Level Up program. So we define caregivers as individuals who care for children, aging adults, or those in need of personal or primary care. They could be related to you or not related. And the premise is that the music industry specifically, what we're looking at, suffers from economic and creative loss from people leaving the industry due to demands of caregiving. And it restricts where they can go in their careers, whether it's a live artist career or whether it's a business owner of a venue or a company. So Level Up offers microgrants primarily, and it's been primarily active in the theater community for the last 3 years. In last fall, they approached both Women in Film and Television and Women in Music Canada and a visual arts component in Montreal, and asked if they would like to give us money to start the programs and expand what they were doing in the theater community into film, television, visual arts, and music. And so I was asked by Women in Music Canada to sit on their advisory board to select the first 9 groups of artists or associations or companies that would be getting the seed funding. And when we talk about seed funding, it's $3,000 grants that come up to support the Level Up objectives. And we'll go forward here. The 4 areas that they work in is care solutions, compassion fund strategies, flexible working models, and pathways to agreements. And this could be, in the past, in the theater community, this has meant theater companies like Stratford working on new HR policies. It has been individual artists who have been touring and wanted to bring caregivers with them, and they were given a microgrant to test it. It could be a business owner that wants to look at a new way of hiring. So instead of bringing somebody back from mat leave, on a part-time or a full-time position, maybe they're sharing with other company owners. If you go up to the Balancing Act Level Up website, you can see all of the projects that have been funded to date. And if we go forward, Women in Music Canada put their first call out last fall, and these 9 artists and companies were given $3,000 seed funds to experiment with new models in caregiving. And they go from large organizations that are looking at putting daycares into their festivals to individual artists who are looking at taking caregivers with them and looking at what a difference that would be make to how they can tour and how they can perform. It also is, for Advance, for example, is going to be doing a survey of their members to look at the specific problems that their community faces in terms of caregiving. Kezia, for example, said there's a lot of new immigrants that Advance deals with and are stakeholders within Advance, and they may not have family members there when suddenly there's a care emergency in terms of childcare or elder care. The artist may have moved to Toronto and is another country away from their parents, and can't provide the kind of support they would expect, or they have care emergencies in Toronto and they don't have a family around them to provide the traditional type of care that they would have expected if they had stayed in their community. So going forward, there will be another round of Level Up funding for music organizations in the spring. I will make sure that that information goes to TMAC so that we are getting the word out to a wider community, because we like to see new people getting this type of microgrants. But Women in Music Canada also decided that the care responsibilities and how caregiving impacts music may be different than how it impacts the theater community and the work done by Level Up and Balancing Act. So Women in Music Canada and Music Publishers Canada will be putting out a survey starting next week that will be running for 2 months. We urge you to send to your contacts in the music community. We want to understand the impact of caregiving in the music sector from an economic viewpoint and a creative viewpoint. We want to gather that information, and we'll be releasing a report in the fall that we're pushing out. It isn't just for our two organizations. It's meant to go out to organizations like TMAC and other organizations who you represent to start a conversation. Often caregiving for parents, for example, isn't discussed. It suddenly becomes an emergency a week before you need to tour, or as you're setting a release schedule out for your next artist. And people don't necessarily prepare for that. And we want to look at, there may be existing resources that we just need to push out in a more organized format to the music community. It may be new conversations on care that come out from the Level Up microgrants and a new way of thinking about, for example, rehearsal space or providing emergency caregiving funds when a band member suddenly can't make it to that next practice. So we want to reimagine what the world of caregiving looks like, elevate the conversation so it's happening more often, and centralize resources, whether they're new ones or existing ones, into some more central databases so that everybody has access. So that is all I wanted to talk to you about today, but I think it's something I'm very passionate about. My father had a stroke when I was 16. I lost my mom a year ago, but she was in a not-for-profit space, which is very rare in terms of elder living. And I've been very actively involved when I had kids in a not-for-profit daycare governance. And those kind of conversations need to happen more in the arts space, because often arts workers don't have the same capacity as many other workers to be able to access care.
Wow, thank you. What a fantastic presentation, great initiative. Thank you again. Any questions from our members? Sorry, I'm stuck on the presentation screen. If you do have questions, please go ahead.
Sorry. Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation and for this incredible work. Just want to make sure how we get the link to the survey and the information to share it with our networks. I think it's really important that this gets as broad a reach as possible.
I will send it to the staff for it to be sent out. Important point I missed is, please send it to people who have left the music industry, because we want to find out when they have left for caregiving reasons. We want to understand that impact on their career. So I think it's as important to be circulating it to your friends who are currently in the industry, whether they're artists or business owners or workers, but please also send it to people who have left the industry. We're on the last slide very quickly because it's not related to caregiving, but Women in the Studio Accelerator is for producer songwriters, and our deadline at Music Publishers Canada for our accelerator is this Friday. So you can ask him more about it after the meeting if you have anybody who you know might be interested.
Fantastic. Any more questions?
Thank you for inviting me. It's a conversation that doesn't get enough airtime, so I appreciate the space.
Question from Charlotte. Do you have a question?
I did have a quick question, just as a touring parent of a toddler. This is very topical for me. One of the things I've noticed amongst my community is that people seem to not know about the level of Quelk daycare subsidy that is available now, and that the cost of daycare keeps getting lower. People are just kind of going, oh, I can't afford daycare on my artist income. So I'm just wondering, because there's been a really recent change in that the cost went down as of January, if that's something that's in your resources yet, or if that's something that'll be covered in your survey.
We do ask about what the restrictions are for touring artists, and so people should bring that up. Very clearly, we don't want to be the ones delivering all the programs. So I challenge TMAC, for example, to set up a working group to be looking at caregiving after the results come out, because I think every community and association should start looking at whether they should be offering solutions and programming in this area, because I don't believe it's discussed enough.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment, that maybe, Charlotte, you seem to have some information that would be beneficial, that we could maybe gather a list of those resources that we could share through the TMAC community, and then we can share it out further.
Definitely, yeah.
Awesome.
And if I could just add, you're already making this initiative cross-sectoral across creative industries, which is amazing. So there's no question that there's room for film board involvement or film involvement, union involvement. We can look at creative tech and other industries as well to strengthen this, because this is great work.
And tourism too. Often touring artists go and tour with children, and they can't get access to, for example, a crib from a hotel. So being able to provide touring musicians with a list of child-friendly resources when they're touring through Toronto is one of the things that could be done.
Thanks. We'll include that, Margaret.
Oh, amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Members, any more questions?
I have a comment. I'll jump in, Mr. Chair. First off, I just want to thank you for the presentation. It was a beautiful topic, and I'm really glad that you brought this to the table. One of the comments I wanted to suggest is when you do your research and your report, I think it would be really valuable to have that available to the people that are doing functional programming and design of facilities. So I'm a proprietor of music rehearsal space and recording studios in Toronto. And one of the things as part of our design process, we wanted to have rooms that were actually accessible for strollers and areas where parents could sort of maybe breastfeed or have an area where they could look after their children while they attend our studios. And we found that most designers didn't really think about that as part of the process in developing the functional program. So I think the outcome of this report could really help inform the design of future spaces, especially when there's an initiative to create more space in the city of Toronto and elsewhere.
Well, and as part of what we're going to be doing with Women in Music Canada is actually, we're funded by Ontario Creates and Creative BC. We're going to be holding focus groups, and if it's okay, I'll get in touch with you, because perhaps one of those focus groups could be on the design of spaces.
I would be very, very interested in participating. And again, thank you for the beautiful presentation.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic for making everyone connect. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Any other questions there? Questions or comments?
I have a question, Sean.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Margaret, for that presentation. I'm wondering if the survey would include trying to find out whether artists are aware of which levels of funding allow them to include childcare costs in their applications, because in my experience, a lot of applicants aren't aware when they are allowed to include childcare as an expense. So it might be beneficial to clarify that and help spread that information.
One of the questions is about resources at work. And so anyone can write in an answer around granting programs that already provide childcare, for example. And I encourage you to do that.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Okay, again, thank you for that excellent presentation and lots of information, important information there. I need to have a motion to receive the item. Sorry, my video is really slow.
You got Benjamin and Deputy Mayor Malik with their hands in the air there.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. All in favor? Hands up. Any not in favor? Excellent. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is MA 6.3, relocation of It's Okay Community Art Studio. City staff will update members on work to identify suitable city-owned city space as a future lease premises for It's Okay Community Art Studio.
Thanks, Sean. We've got Jason Bragg from Parks and Recreation here. He's going to speak first, and I'll follow up with an additional piece of information. Jason, over to you.
Thanks, Mike. So Parks and Recreation staff have updated the demolition timeline for 468 Queen based on the now underway procurement process, as well as an understanding of what kind of access a contractor would need to the building before full mobilization for demolition. As a result, we're able to do one final lease extension that goes until October 31st, 2025, which should hopefully allow a little more time to advance the works at finding a new home for It's Okay. And I'll pass it over to Mike to update on that aspect. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. That's very welcome news. I'm seeing a Halloween bash. So EDC and the music office have been in touch regularly with our colleagues in corporate real estate management, CREM, who are overseeing the field work done through a consultant for what's called a building condition assessment, a BCA for short. And for those of you who have purchased homes, this is a little bit like a home inspection done on the building before anybody might contemplate moving in through lease or purchase. The BCA consultants, according to the latest update from CREM, which I received a couple of weeks ago, went into the building at 16 Ossington, which is a city-owned space at Ossington, where it meets Queen Street, just across from Sweaty Betty's, from those of you who are familiar with the area. They went in on January 17th and did the work, field work as it's called, on this building condition assessment. And our latest update from CREM colleagues are that the BCA draft will be ready in mid-March to be followed shortly thereafter by a final copy. We've requested whether it's possible to get a summary of the consultant's findings before then. We don't know yet whether that's going to be possible. The building condition assessment will outline work that's necessary to bring the building to a state of good repair, if any is necessary, and approximate cost estimates for this work. And the last BCA on this property at 16 Ossington was done in 2015. So it's time for another one, and we're hoping to get some information, as I say, by mid-March from corporate real estate management, and that's where things stand.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from our members? No hands up.
Sorry, it's Asma here.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for the update. I know that the work has been very diligently moving forward to honor the commitment that we made as a committee around It's Okay's future and the search for space. And I'm glad that, given the timeframes on this particular project, that we are able to offer an extension to, the work that they do there, and to make sure that that transition happens in the most kind of seamless way, and that was a big consideration in the discussions that have been happening, and to continue to move forward some very promising kind of progress on this new site. And again, I guess my my kind of commitment in terms of us moving this forward. And what I know I have implored us all to do in this process is to make sure that we are also documenting the lessons from this. This is the model of space use for the city, of being able to unlock these spaces for arts and culture organizations. And the way that it has been done with It's Okay in this particular city site is one that we want to be ambitious about replicating across the city and with other organizations. So each step that we take with this is another kind of lesson in learning and how this can be done. The aspects of it that we can predict and anticipate, and the ones that kind of come up in terms of timeframes and construction and conditions of sites and the capability of organizations themselves. So just to put a sharper point on that we are happy to continue to move in the right direction and also be learning each step of the way in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? No? Not seeing any hands. Okay.
Hi.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
My hand's up.
Yeah, my video's slow, so if I don't get you, fire away.
It's okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, I feel like we will dive into this as we sort of continue to build and imagine new plans for It's Okay. But I do want to add in that in addition to being an incredible resource for the arts and culture community, that there has been like a really important alignment with It's Okay in different academic institutions and really trying to bridge gaps between how certain spaces that are typically kind of segmented away from grassroots community have found a lot of really important programming opportunities and have been able to reimagine It's Okay in a way that is really dynamic from different spaces of publishing. And again, I had hosted a conference there this past spring, so I just cannot resist an opportunity to hand a set of flowers to how the real long-term planning of various different members of this team have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make a space like It's Okay possible, and feeling really energized and exciting that this is not the end of the story for that space, but that we are also moving at a sort of ethics of pace in terms of really trying to be intentional about what a new space can accommodate that grows that vision a bit broader, but also retains a lot of the incredible work that's been done thus far.
Absolutely. Thanks for your comments. I agree 100%. It's a great first step, and looking to the future of programs like it. Any other comments or questions? Anyone know? Okay, so I would have a motion for this to receive the item. There's Lisa. Great. Thank you. Next on the agenda is an update, MA 6.4 update.
Sorry, Sean, we just need you to actually conduct the vote on that item.
Oh, right. Yes, I always forget the vote.
Thank you.
All in favor? And show of hands, please. And opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we'll go to MA 6.4, update on new and ongoing music office work. City staff and economic development and cultural update members on new and ongoing music office related work.
Thank you, Sean. We've got a few short updates we will get through quickly. I'm going to ask Jacqueline to speak first, and then I'll follow up with a couple of points.
Thanks, Mike. So yeah, just circling back to our earlier conversation, the step-by-step guide that we're putting together. Thank you to Sean and Lisa and Tracy for all of the earlier input and trying to get the ball rolling. It is a very confusing process. So this guide is really meant to be, it's not a strict guide in terms of what to do in every single scenario, but it's more of a framework to outline the overall process so that business owners can really understand, generally speaking, what to expect when they want to move forward with a new entertainment place of assembly license, particularly for music venues. That is who this guide is for. I've been going back and forth with a bunch of different city divisions, including building, zoning, planning, fire, clerks, and the AGCO, to help put together this document that helps venues navigate the process of updating their license category and or expanding capacity, because they're tied together sometimes. So really the goal here is to demystify the overarching process, and it'll cover things like understanding the new license categories, outlining the right web pages to get the info that you need, understanding how zoning affects which license you can get, providing the different contacts for the different divisions so that you can dive deeper, as each individual venue will have a different path because they're not all created equal. We're also trying to cover how expanding capacity at the venue is possible once you get that new license. The requirements for maximum space devoted to entertainment might change, and this process has proven to be extremely confusing. So the information is still being confirmed. Conversations are still ongoing. We're trying to nail down as specific information as possible so that this step-by-step guide will provide a clear path for folks going forward. So we saw that with our other guides, like the resource guide for music event organizers and the Good Neighbor guide that was created as part of the night economy work, how valuable these resources are in laying out a very simple way of accessing information. So that's what we hope to do with this step-by-step guide as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Jacqueline, for the presentation and all your hard work on this. It is a tricky file that we've been going in circles for months, but there seems to be some great information and structure coming to that. Anybody have questions or comments there?
I wanted to add a quick point there, Sean. Just picking up a little bit on the last point that Jacqueline made, and circling back to a point made earlier by Councillor Fletcher about the value of having this kind of information, presented in clear, plain language for business owners and people who are not working at City Hall, and B, having it in one place. Because while it's true that all of the information may be found, in a page devoted to zoning, in a page devoted to licensing, in a page put up and maintained by Toronto Building, in information put out by the AGCO, it's difficult sometimes, we know, as the music office and sometimes the first point of contact for live music venue operators, to if you have to ask, you'll never know kind of thing. So sometimes people aren't even aware of opportunities or limitations or guidelines that apply to them if they're not directed there. So I don't like the phrase one-stop shop, but as Jacqueline mentioned, the resource guide for event organizers, the Good Neighbor guide for late-night businesses, and when it's finally ready, this step-by-step guide for bricks and mortar venue operators should be at least one destination where people can get most of the information, if not all, and links to the varying pages that they can do a deeper dive into application forms and things like that. So the last point I'll make there is that this is where having the input of members of TMAC is extremely valuable for city staff like us. We've been leaning heavily on Sean and Tracy and Lisa as TMAC members who own and operate live music venues to give us their perspective on what makes sense, what's confusing, what's germane to the business community, what doesn't make any sense. And we'll continue to engage you guys as we put the finishing touches on this. Thank you for everything you've done to this stage with this guide.
Great, and back at you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on Jacqueline's presentation or Mike's words? Anybody? Okay, I believe, Mike, you had some more comments?
Yeah, and I'm actually throw back to Jacqueline to give us an update on the Music Intern Networking event held at It's Okay recently. Over to you, Jacqueline.
Thanks. So, yeah, last week on Monday, Feb 10th, we had our second annual Music Intern Networking event, the goal of which was to connect music organizations like festivals, venues, musicians, record labels with music business students from various programs, including TMU, Centennial, Humber, and a few others that were looking to get their foot in the door in the industry. We had a really good turnout this year. Almost 70 students and 27 different music organizations were in attendance. We had 33 internship job postings available, 24 of which were paid. In comparison, last year we had 16 organizations participating and 13 internship roles, but only 6 of which were paid. So the other aspect of the event that was great was that we asked some of the organizations to arrive a bit early so they had some time to network with each other before the students arrived. That was part of the feedback we got from last year, that the organizations wanted a chance to chat with each other. So I also encouraged students who were at the event to approach the networking side of things with a bit of an open mind and curiosity, and ask them to introduce themselves to at least 2 other students they hadn't met before, because as we all know, peer networking can be just as important as meeting potential employers. We had 5 current and former members of TMAC in attendance doing interviews with potential interns, so that was wonderful. Thank you, everybody who was there, for showing up. The event was organized so that the first half was 6 one-on-one 10-minute interviews based on the students who reviewed the job postings, rated the ones they wanted to sit down with the most, and then we sent over those students' resumes to those organizations so that everybody could choose who they wanted to sit down with first. And then the second half was more open. Any student could chat with any organization they wanted to. And so far the feedback from both students and organizations have been really great. We've heard a few students have already been hired as interns as a direct result of the event, and we'll be following up with organizations involved in about a month or 2 to see how many were actually hired. Last year it was 9 students who were hired as interns from the event out of the 13 roles available. And one really cool full circle moment was that North by Northeast had hired 2 unpaid interns that they met at the event last year, and they both went on to be hired for paid roles in the organization. And one of those interns, who's now full-time staff, came back to the event and was on the other side of the table doing the hiring for this year. So that was really wonderful. So we're happy to see that. And yeah, it was a great event. So thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any questions or comments for Jacqueline there? Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thanks, Jacqueline. I just wanted to chime in to reiterate what a great event it was. I was there on behalf of Music Managers Forum Canada, and proud to say that we have hired an intern based on the students that we met with, and appreciate being part of it, as like many of us, we're fairly under-resourced organization trying to do the work that we do, supporting artists and managers to grow their careers, and almost feel like I don't even have enough capacity to help find someone to give us more capacity. And so having this event to just be able to kind of show up and meet folks and see if there are people who might fit in nicely, rather than having to spearhead, posting a job and doing interviews on my own, has made a huge difference, and I'm sure is going to make a gigantic difference in a few months' time after having the help of an intern. So Jacqueline, want to thank you again for making this happen, and also appreciate, you touched on it a little bit in your presentation, but the spirit that you brought to it and the sort of support and encouragement to the students, I think was really lovely, and could feel that on our side of the table with these folks who were very keen to be involved in the industry, and who I think felt very prepared to speak with us. So just wanted to chime in and give that perspective. Thanks a lot.
Excellent. Success. A lot of what we do, sometimes there's a negative connotation that we're working through solving a problem. It's great to have some success stories. So yeah, yay. Any other questions or comments?
Lisa's got her hand up.
Go ahead, Lisa. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. I unfortunately couldn't make the event, but I thought it was a genius idea, and I'll second the comment from Amy about us being under-resourced. Is there the possibility, Jackie, to get any kind of list for those of us who couldn't be there? To maybe carry on the interview process with some of the people that were there but not placed, or if you actually identified people that you thought would be a good fit that I could follow up with. And further to that, I know there's other venues that are in a similar position that aren't represented on TMAC that also couldn't make it, but a few promoters, a few other venues. Is it a process we can sort of expand beyond the sort of job fair, as it were?
Yeah, that's a great idea. We did have one organization, Women in Music Canada, actually, who wasn't able to attend. And what we had asked them to do was give us a very simple, could even be bullet points, job description of what an intern would do at your venue or your organization. And then we send that out to all of the students. And then the students who are interested let us know, and then you can choose from that pool. That's certainly something we could replicate, and I love that there's more opportunities out there. Like I said, we had 70 students in attendance, but over 120 RSVP'd. So we had also sent out an intake form for all the folks for all the students who RSVP'd, asking them to, tell us a bit more about themselves, include their resume, what program they're in, and more importantly, where their interest is in the industry. So folks who had identified, wanting to work in live or wanting to work, on the production side, we can also narrow down the list for you based on those answers, so that it's not just a bunch of folks who are only interested in one side of the industry. The goal really was to maximize the effectiveness of who we were pairing, so that we didn't want to waste anybody's time. So yeah, happy to chat with you about that more. And yeah, there's still lots of interns or students that didn't get an internship from that event. So happy to share more opportunities with them for sure. Thank you for suggesting that.
Awesome, thank you. A question, have you connected any grants or employment funding? The federal government usually has new work programs. Have you connected any of those to assist with getting those interns into the full-time jobs? That would be great information as business owners to have, because we're 90 hours a week. We're busy all the time. Going out and seeking that funding is one more task that is on the list. So connecting those dots would be a real fantastic help for businesses and organizations.
For sure. And when we originally sent out the email to all of the organizations that we hoped would participate, we did put together a list of resources that they could access. We started doing outreach for this in November. So the hope was that that was enough lead up time to at least do a little bit of digging to see if you could bring funding on board. We haven't reached out to the funders directly because everybody is coming from a different place. Like, we had record labels there, we had advocacy organizations, we had venues, we had festivals, we had artists. So everybody has a little bit of a different business stream, but we did compile a list of available funding. So that at least that part was all compiled in one place. But yeah, happy to share that again for sure.
Excellent. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great to see. Any more questions or comments? And Mike, did you have more?
I do. Sorry, everybody.
All right.
Here we're standing between you and lunch. These will be short points, and then we can get to Councillor Fletcher's item, and we still should be getting out of here by noon or so. So thanks again, Jacqueline. That was great. I wanted to quickly update anybody who isn't already aware that on January 30th, our friends at the Canadian Live Music Association, CLMA, released a report on the economic impact of the live music industry across Canada. A number of folks I know on TMAC attended. The report is called Here and Now. That's HEAR, little play on words for those of you not picking up immediately. Understanding the economic power and potential of Canada's live music industry. It's the first ever economic impact assessment of the live industry in Canada. It was commissioned by the Canadian Live Music Association. Research was done by Nordicity. Some of us in the room know Nordicity. They worked on our music strategy on a report called Revenues that we co-produced with CLMA back in 2020 as well. The report is available for download on the Canadian Live Music Association website. I would encourage you to take a look there. And there's an executive summary with some top-line stats. It's a readable report. There's lots of fancy, pretty colors and sidebars and graphs. But some of those key statistics, a very few key statistics, are as follows. The combined impacts of live music company operations and related tourism spending across Canada, annually, it's a $10.92 billion contribution to the GDP, almost $11 billion. Almost $10 billion in visitor spending, over 100,000 jobs created, and $5.84 billion in labor income. And there are many more big numbers as well. They're impressive. The presentation that was done at the Allied Music Centre, TD Music Hall, on January 30th also did some comparators with other industries that get a lot more airplay, if you will, in the national conversation about economic impact and support from government. This music industry, and this is again just the live music industry, punches up there with a lot of other industries, as I say. We hear about a great deal, and that's not even considering things like Margaret McGuffin's work with publishing and licensing and education and recording and management and agencies and the other elements of the ecosystem. This is live alone. So again, that's Canadian Live Music Association. On their website, you can download a copy of this Here and Now report, and it is, as I say, very interesting and quite compelling. The last thing I want to mention here is an idea that we're just working on developing, and I'm interested in getting anybody's feedback and thoughts on it. It is very much sort of back of the napkin right now. We have staff from Councillor Bradford in the room. We have Councillor Fletcher and Deputy Mayor Malik. So this is interesting to float this idea. It's our observation sometimes that city staff and city councillors hear from particular parts of the public ecosystem when it comes to vibrancy and music and events. And we're looking to see if there's a way to broaden and be a bit more inclusive in what the city hears from the public when it comes to things like live events, live music, and so on. And so what we were thinking about doing, our night economy champion knows about this already, was an idea where there may be a mechanism such as a QR code at certain festivals, anybody who wants to participate, large venues, so that attendees can scan a QR code and aggregate some data. And the data might come back to the music office, and the music office could compile and package this data so that we would have it and we could provide it in a report for anybody who needed it at any time. We don't often hear, I think, as city staff, from young people, from people who go out at night, from people who attend events and venues, and this might be a way of hearing from some of those folks who may not feel like coming to City Hall and deputing or calling the councillor's office, but are going and are enjoying the city and enjoying elements of the city that sometimes flies under the radar. So as I say, this is still an idea that's being developed. We want to talk to some venues and some festival operators, see about feasibility. We want to talk about the actual mechanism by which this data could be collected, privacy concerns, geographic information. We did a program last year with our Visitor Economy Office in Destination Toronto called Music Compass. Some of you may remember there were decals placed on sidewalks in certain parts of the city where scanning a QR code on the decal would bring up information about nearby local live music venues or music retailers, record stores, music instrument stores. And there may be a way of using that mechanism to help gather information such as the information we're talking about. So we'll keep this committee in the loop as the idea begins to take shape. We may be able to pilot it this summer if there's enough enthusiasm and support for it. And we're open to any comments, questions, thoughts, suggestions on the viability, feasibility, use, purpose from anybody who's listening.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I think that sounds like a fantastic idea, like having data from the CLMA study. Any pools of data that we have, always give us better talking points, and talking with municipal, provincial, federal government. So data points are always excellent. And I did like the Music Compass program. I thought it was a great success. I saw lots of people out in front of our venue, scanning the QR code and looking to see the results of that too. So yeah, just a few comments on that. Any other questions or comments for Mike on that?
Thank you. Yeah, yes, I do. What kind of data points are you looking for?
I think it would be, you can tell me what you think, but initially it was, hey, I was at X festival, Y venue, I had a great time, I would come back, this is where I live, this is where the venue was, the event was. Really basic. There may be a check market survey that pops up with like 3 or 4 questions maximum. We don't want it to be onerous. It's just like, hey, I was there. I remember years ago there was a discussion that we were having with municipal licensing and standards about the number of noise complaints that happened around Fort York one particular summer. And there was a number of noise complaints. And I was thinking at the same time, well, yes, that certainly, we have to be cognizant of that and be aware of how events at the fort are affecting the immediate residential community. But at the same time, there were tens of thousands of people who went to Fort York and enjoyed all kinds of events that year. And it would be nice in some way to capture that side of the equation as well.
Yeah, we'll just check.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, presenting a positive is always something we're thinking about, instead of post dealing with the negative. So I like the idea. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to be careful that within the city's noise bylaw, because we hear from both sides, people liking to do things, but what is that threshold around noise, no matter what kind it is, whether it's Metrolinx at 4 o'clock in the morning and venues. So I guess you have a good neighbor policy, which is really important for the surrounding community, because I have the Opera House, I've got a lot of places. Also have the docks, or what used to be the docks, and there have been numerous noise complaints at different times for that. So just to be very sensitive to both sides of the equation.
Absolutely. And in no way would this idea, as it takes shape, be seen in opposition to the noise bylaw and compliance with the noise bylaw and good neighbor practices as practiced by venues, festival operators, that kind of thing. This is really just tracking visitation, spend, you know, that kind of thing that sometimes maybe doesn't get heard.
Got it. With the extra density in the city, there is that whole issue of what's happening around you. And I think that's great to know who's coming, but we just have to be, we're on the same committee that hears that was too much, too often.
Right.
And those are folks that live next door.
We'll keep.
There's a great happy medium.
Yeah.
And the night economy reports through ECDEV, as does this committee. So that should all come together in a great way, I'd say.
100%. As we develop the idea, Councillor, we'll certainly keep you in the loop, and so we're capturing things that would be valuable to you as well as to city staff.
Well, it's not just to me, it's to City Council, not me personally.
To you
Decision makers.
as a
Thank
councillor, yes. Any other questions on that?
All right. No more questions there.
And that's our final staff update, Sean.
Okay, great. Any last call for any questions there for Jacqueline or Mike? Loads of great information, lots of new things moving forward. It's fantastic. Can I get a motion for a member to receive the item, please? Hands up. Here we are. Somebody. There we go. Charlotte. Thank you. Motion is and the vote to in favor of the motion. Hands up, please. And anyone not in favor. Excellent. Motion carried. Our last item on today's meeting, we touched on earlier. It's a MA 6.5, affordable housing for workers in arts, film, television, and culture sector. Councillor Fletcher did do a bit of a presentation. Would you like to introduce a bit more on your item?
No, thank you very much, Sean. I did give a bit of a presentation at the first.
Yep.
So I think we're done on that. I just want to say how impressed I am with everything that you're doing on this committee. It's really amazing. It's fantastic. So all the members and then all of the city staff, it's really something. And creating the navigational tools for you through the city maze is a great, great thing because it's not easy. This is just this motion that I sent, and we did discuss it earlier, Sean. I just would ask that the committee would support or endorse the recommendation that City Council has to find a way to add on the whatever new program is being developed, a section so that housing for the Arts, Film, Television, and Culture Center can be added in. It's a choice-based access system that's going to be developed, but without these motions and this push, it will just be developed for anybody, whereas we want to create a slice for the sector. So that motion,
Fantastic.
I think the clerk has that motion in the
Yeah,
recommendation.
were there any other questions there before we go ahead with the vote on that? Very quickly, no other questions? Okay, great. Clerk, do you need to read it in, or is it read in, or what's the process
Yeah, we'll
here?
display the motion and then you can read it on behalf of everyone. Just give us a moment.
Oh, no. My fear of public speaking. Is it up yet? Sorry, I'm on a small screen, so I might need my glasses. Oh my goodness. Okay. To endorse the recommendation of City Council to the Housing Secretary to ensure that workers in arts, film, television, and culture sector are included as a priority group in the new choice-based housing access system for new affordable rental housing, and request that Toronto Music Advisory Committee be a part of the consultation and development of the new choice-based access system. hopefully that was clear. And I guess now we're going to vote on that item. Is that correct, Clerk?
That's correct. We'll get a motion to adopt.
Oh, yes. Motion to adopt, please. Hands up, anybody? Someone just throw the hand up. Come on. There we go. Lisa, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Show of hands. And anyone opposed? Excellent. So the motion is carried and item adopted. And I think that's it. Clerk, do we have to do any other housekeeping before we adjourn the meeting, or?
If you just want to read one more motion that we'll put up, it's a motion to excuse any absentees from today's meeting.
Sure. The Toronto Music Advisory Committee excuses the absence of Councillor Brad Bradford, Jamal Vickers, Jeremy Kessner, John Kiru, Julian Taylor, Councillor Paul Ansel, and Phoenix Pagliacci from February 18th, 2025 meeting of the Toronto Music Advisory Committee. Hopefully I got all those right. Very fine print on my iPhone. And I guess that would be
we just need to do the vote on that if all those in favor.
Oh, right. Sorry, I keep forgetting the vote. A motion to accept. There we go. Kristen, thank you. And all in favor? Any opposed? Awesome. Motion carries. I thought that was a pretty great 2 hours. We got a lot of information there. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and so much amazing work going on. It's very exciting, and looking forward to engaging more. Mike, Music Office, any final comments, or are we good?
No, thanks. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for chairing. Good to see everybody, and thanks for everybody making your way in through the winter storm into City Hall. Good to see people in person. Thanks. We'll be in touch.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Meeting adjourned.